Right now, the day's biggest news stories from a Vegas perspective. This is the Vegas Take with Sharp and Shapiro.
All right, welcome back. It is the Vegas Take, Sharp and Shapiro on a Friday. So glad you could join us. You know, we love talking to UNLV grads, those who made it big in whatever industry they work in. And the woman we have with us on the line right now, her name is Tomi Lahren. She's with Fox Nation. She's made a ton of TV appearances, whether it be Fox News on a regular basis. She's been all over the networks, all over the national TV shows. If you don't know who Tomi Lahren is, she's a very opinionated woman, and she's somebody who is not afraid to speak her mind, whether it be on social media or on the networks, on the radio. And here is a clip of Tomi Lahren, just her take quickly on Nancy Pelosi, the ripping up of the State of the Union speech. Here is that sound.
She tore up tributes to law enforcement, border enforcement, and national security. She destroyed the stories of service members and their families and a tribute to a media legend suffering from stage 4 lung cancer. She tore up the American dream and spit on it. Democrats, that's your den mother, that's your party, that's your message, your agenda, and your legacy. It's also the bed you've made for yourselves. Now you can lie in it.
That is Tomi Lahren, and Tomi joins us right now on the line. Tomi, thank you so much for joining us. How are you?
I'm happy to be here. It's always interesting to hear myself, yelling about politics in a soundbite. I got to live up to that. I got to get real angry. So I hope you guys fire me up about something.
Well, that's definitely Brian's
I
plan.
have a chance that I think there's a chance that's going to happen, but I've always appreciated your passion. I will definitely say that. And the fact that you went to UNLV, what do you remember about your UNLV days, by the way?
Oh, UNLV is an odd place. I think you guys know. I mean, still, when I tell people that I went to school in Vegas, they kind of look at you a little weird, like there's an actual school there. And, there is an actual school there. It's not a traditional school. But, I learned a lot at UNLV, and I probably learned more just from my experiences and how diverse it is and all the different kinds of people we have there than anything else. But, I had a great time, and I did a lot with it.
All right, so let's get to the fired up stuff. I want to get right to it, and that is Elizabeth Warren. You've been very outspoken about her. I want to play a clip from Elizabeth Warren talking about sexism. Now she says all these little girls have nobody to look up to because we have two old white men that are in the Democratic Party that are running against Donald Trump. Here's Elizabeth Warren, and then I want to get you to respond to it.
What guidance would you give to your supporters who don't know who to support now?
Well, let's take a deep breath and spend a little time on that. We don't have to decide that this minute.
And I wonder what your message would be to the women and girls who feel like we're left with two white men to decide between.
I know. One of the hardest parts of this is all those baby promises and all those little girls who are going to have to wait 4 more years. That's going to be hard.
All right, Tomi, I'll let you respond to that. I'm not a big Elizabeth Warren fan, but what are your thoughts on that?
Is anyone an Elizabeth Warren fan? I mean, I think if we had some Elizabeth Warren fans out in the crowd, she probably would be doing better right about now. But you know what? Here's the thing. This is what frustrates me to no end. And Hillary Clinton, of course, pulled this woman card for really her entire career, and especially in this last election. As a conservative woman, yes, I am a woman. I identify as a woman. Nothing frustrates me more than when liberal women cry their tears that little girls have no one to look up to. Listen, there's a lot of conservative women out there and liberal women who are doing amazing things. No, you didn't end up with a nominee or a candidate that is a woman at this stage in the Democratic Party. I understand that. But to go and say that it's because of sexism, misogyny, I think that's such a cop-out. I think it's such an excuse. And quite frankly, I think it's actually very insulting to all the women out there who don't need to be mollycoddled and treated with bubble wrap because we're women. Get over yourself. Pick up your loss and move on. You're still a United States senator.
Yeah, no, listen, I agree with you when it comes to that, but I have to ask you this. It bothers me, and obviously I'm not a woman, but it does bother me. If you don't like Nancy Pelosi, and again, I'm not a fan of Nancy Pelosi, but do you think it's beneath the presidency for Donald Trump to go after her dentures and go after her teeth and go after women based on looks? Because as much as I know you had a problem of Nancy Pelosi ripping up the speech, and I agree with you, it was ridiculous, do you also have a problem with the president of the United States going after women based on looks?
Hey, listen, I will say that I don't like it when anybody goes after anyone for looks. I think that this president jokes a lot. But the thing that I also find interesting, and I don't like to do the whataboutisms, but I never see liberal women standing up for conservative women. I've been called every name in the book. People drag my looks all the time, especially those on the left, and I never hear liberal women standing up for conservative women. And beyond that, I don't like the double standard when it comes to Donald Trump because they talk about his hair, they talk about his weight, they talk about his skin tone, they make fun of his wife, they make fun of his daughter, they make fun of his sons. At the end of the day, yes, I would appreciate if Donald Trump made fewer jokes about the looks of women. But at the same time, they do the same thing back to him and to everyone else in the political spectrum, including myself. So you can't cry about it and then do it.
And just to confirm, you're talking about liberal, the left-wing media, right? You're not talking about Brian Shapiro, because Brian Shapiro does that every single day.
Can I ask you a question? What have liberals said about your looks? You're obviously a very attractive woman, and even if you weren't, I don't support anybody making fun of a woman based on look. But can you give me an example of something that like a liberal said about you?
But how much time do you have? I mean, I have. It's really endless. I get two things. I get you're ugly. You have a fake nose. By the way, I don't have a fake nose. You have a giant forehead. You're pasty. You're this. You're that.
What?
I get those, and then the other half of them say, well, the only way you got where you are is because you're pretty. You're actually dumb. So the liberals like to play both sides
right.
of this. And
so
one day I'm ugly, and the other day I'm pretty, and that's why I got here.
Okay,
it's always the liberals that do it.
That is completely ridiculous. Obviously, nobody should support that type of language. But I think you understand my point, Tommy. I mean, he is the president of the United States, and he is the leader of the free world. I think it should start with him. And you're right. If there's a double standard and anybody on the left is making fun of a woman based on looks, I don't support that anymore. But he is the president, and he should set a standard. You agree with that, though, right?
I definitely do. I think that this is the character of this president, and although I don't agree with everything that he says, I don't think we elected him to be nice. I think we elected him to get things done, and that's why so many of us can say, I wish you wouldn't have said that. I wish you wouldn't have tweeted that. That joke went too far. But we're also in 2020. I don't know if you've looked around lately, but things are getting pretty crazy.
Well, they
and
are.
in the media, and I understand that there's a certain decorum that's expected of the president, but this president doesn't fit the mold. And I'm not going to be a Trump apologist. I'm just going to tell you, he is what he is. He's getting the job done, and that's all there is to it.
Well, I certainly don't expect you to apologize. I want to obviously get to Super Tuesday and your opinions on Joe Biden, Bernie Sanders. One more question on Donald Trump, if you may, and I can only speak for myself on this. I'm an independent. I believe it is not too far-fetched to have somebody that has good policy and somebody that is respectful, somebody that does not get on a stage and side with Vladimir Putin and Kim Jong-un, somebody who and I do believe he withheld aid for personal gain. He has gone after John McCain, and I know you were on The View. I believe you were sitting right next to John McCain's daughter. I know she's still hurt over this, the fact that he said, I don't respect him because he was captured. And again, I'm not asking you to defend the president. I get your position, but I'm just saying, do you understand where I'm coming from? I think we need a president that can be respectful towards others, have thicker skin, and have good policy. Am I wrong in thinking that way?
Yeah, when you find him, let me know. I mean, it's really hard to find the perfect person out there. We tried the Mitt Romney and the John McCain thing that were very timid and were not tough and didn't have a thick skin and constantly apologized for everything, right or wrong.
Right.
And it wasn't effective. So at the end of the day, yes, we all wish we could have that perfect candidate that did all the right things, said all the right things, was a great person, and did wonderful things for the country. I'm not sure that person exists, but I'm very happy with what Donald Trump has been doing for the American people.
No, I think expecting perfection is reasonable, Brian.
Well,
I think that's totally reasonable.
No, well, listen,
Larry Poppins, our next president, Larry Poppins.
I'm not asking for a great person. I'm asking for a decent person, but I totally understand where Tomi is coming from. We're joined by Tomi Lahren, Fox Nation, UNLV grad as well, so really happy to have her on the program. Tomi, let's go to Super Tuesday. Your thoughts on Super Tuesday, all of those that have dropped out. Now it's between Joe Biden, of course, and Bernie Sanders. Your thoughts on Super Tuesday?
Well, it was quite a mess, wasn't it?
Yes.
I mean, what I think is really interesting is from the get-go, we knew that the establishment was really in for Joe Biden. That was their candidate. It was his turn, so to speak. That's who they wanted. And then it became abundantly clear that maybe he wasn't ready for this. I mean, there was gaffe after gaffe and slips after slips, and it was just an overall atmosphere of maybe this guy just can't handle this right now. But then when everyone else started to falter, they went right back to Joe Biden. And I'm not a Bernie Sanders supporter by any means. I don't believe in socialism or any of his policies, but I think it's very clear that the DNC has made their voices very prominent that they are not going to stand for Bernie Sanders and his supporters, and they're going to make sure that they regain that control and make sure that Joe Biden's their guy.
So, Tomi, you do this for a living. So I see this as Joe Biden being the front runner for the Democratic Party. I think it's going to be Biden versus Trump. I think Trump's going to win in 2020. How do you see it?
I see Donald Trump definitely winning in 2020. Of course, we never want to get too confident. I I hate being overly confident because then I think it leads people to be lazy, especially in their activism and their voting. But I do think we're going to see probably a Biden-Trump matchup. I think that it's sad for the Democrats because they don't have a good choice that anyone can really stand behind and say, this is our guy. And I would never vote for a Democrat. I won't say never. I would probably never vote for a Democrat. But it does make me sad for that party that those are their choices. They spent 3.5 years railing on how much they hate this president, and they couldn't find better candidates than Joe Biden and Bernie Sanders. I mean, come on. I think they really dropped the ball.
That's a very valid point. I couldn't agree with you more there.
The conversation has been that Bernie Sanders had the election stolen from him in 2016. The same thing's going to happen in 2020. A lot of his supporters are very, very anti-Donald Trump. But I think that Bernie Sanders supporters, if Joe Biden wins the nomination, they're not going to come out and vote for Biden. Do you agree with that?
Oh, I absolutely do. I think we saw that a lot in 2016 as well, the Bernie bros and the Bernie supporters. I think that the thing that Trump supporters and Bernie supporters have in common is passion and a need for change and to disrupt the system. We're disruptors, and we do it in very different ways. But I do think a lot of those people that are Bernie Sanders supporters gravitate towards authenticity. And when it comes to being authentic, Donald Trump definitely has that. They might not like all of his policies, but when the economy is doing well, and let's hope we keep recovering from this coronavirus hysteria.
I'm glad you brought that up.
Get back to business.
Yeah,
I know we're going to talk about that.
Yeah.
But I do think you're going to see a lot of Bernie supporters say, I just want the genuine guy, and I think they're going to go over to Trump.
We'll get to coronavirus in a second here. I want to ask you one more political question, although I guess it is a political question when you talk about the coronavirus, sadly. But the political division in this country. Tomi, I'm 39 years old. I think this country is more divided politically than we have ever been. So my question to you is why? Why are we so divided as a country right now?
Well, I think the reason is you have a president and you have a movement, a conservative movement, a Trump-supporting movement that's loud and proud. And you haven't had that in this country for a very long time. You haven't had conservatives stand up and say, I'm proud to vote for this guy. I am a conservative. You are not going to walk over me. And that's when you started seeing the division, because for too long, conservatives just lay down in the corner and said, oh, don't look at me. I might be a Republican, but, I don't really want to tell anybody, and I don't want to ruffle any feathers. I just want to be a quiet conservative.
Right.
And then now Donald Trump came in and shook up the system, and I think the left is very angry at that. So they really got hyped up on the fact that conservatives are finally standing our ground, and that's why you're seeing political division, because we finally are fighting for ourselves.
I think there's I don't necessarily disagree with you. I think there are extremes on both sides of the aisle, and I think that's bad for the country. I certainly would start there, but like I said, I don't disagree with what you're saying. Let's talk a little bit about the coronavirus. I've never been one. I'm not a big Trump supporter, but I've never been one to blame Donald Trump for the coronavirus. Donald Trump did the other day make some statements in blaming Obama, at least for the testing and all that sort of stuff. And then, it came out that it wasn't true. But I had an issue with Don Jr.'s comments. And listen, I also had an issue with Chuck Schumer and people on the left that are blaming Trump for this. I think it's completely ridiculous, and that's wrong. This should never be politicized, and I'm sure you would agree it should be about helping people. But I had a problem with what Don Jr. said last week. I'm sure you heard about this. Don Jr. made the statement that he believes that Democrats want millions of Americans to contract the coronavirus and die so that Donald Trump would win in 2020. This is the president's son. And then the vice president of the United States, Mike Pence, said those comments were understandable when he did an interview with Jake Tapper. I have a huge problem with that type of verbiage and language. What do you say?
I wouldn't go as far as to say the Democrats want millions of Americans to get coronavirus and want the American people to die, but I do think that the Democrats did relish the fact that the stock market plunged and that we went into a period of hysteria with this president. I think that they definitely took advantage of it, and I don't think that it should be used for political gain on either side. I think the blame really lies a lot with China, and we should be focusing there and how deceptive they were and how they didn't handle it on their home front before it became so much worse. So I think we should focus on that. But to say that the Democrats didn't kind of relish in the fact that the stock market plunged, I mean, we had Bill Maher right here in Los Angeles saying, well, the best thing about the coronavirus is maybe people will hate Trump. So it's not like we're pulling these things out of thin air. There are liberals out there with huge media platforms that are saying them, whether it's for comedy or not.
I agree.
It has been said.
I agree with that. I do think we need to differentiate, though, between a comedian who, you're right, Bill Maher does have a huge platform, and the son of the president and the vice president of the United States. You see where I'm going there?
No, I absolutely do. But I think that, like I said, I think Don Jr.'s comments went too far. I don't think Democrats want people to die. I think that's ridiculous. And I do think that they did relish in the fact that the country is going through,
I agree.
a period of unrest.
Listen,
and I think
agree.
That they're enjoying it.
Listen, Tommy, I agree with you.
And Brian, Mike Pence probably should have said what he said was.
That's what I was going to ask
his comments. Yeah. His comments may have been justified. What he should have said was, I don't agree with what Donald Trump Jr. said.
Tommy,
and the fact, and I'm a Trump supporter myself, and the fact that Mike Pence wasn't able to say that kind of says a lot about Mike Pence.
Well, Tommy, that's what I was going to ask you. I appreciate your honesty. I really do. And why can't a Mike Pence say what you just said? Would it kill Mike Pence to say he went too far? I wouldn't have said that, but let's talk about the stock market because that's a very valid point that you just made. Why can't Mike Pence answer a question like that?
I've never really been someone who's very familiar with Mike Pence. I think he definitely takes, a role that's not as aggressive. And so sometimes I think he just goes with the flow. He doesn't want to rock the boat, and he doesn't want to upset the family or doesn't want to cause a rift or give people fodder for headlines saying Mike Pence goes against Don Jr. Right. I think maybe that's more of where it came from. I think that he was kind of just in a spot where he was trying not to be confrontational, but then again, I don't know why he did it. I think that he probably could have clarified it better.
No question. Tommy, this would be my last question for you. And by the way, we really do appreciate you coming on. And by the way, for the record, I would never call you ugly. You're extremely attractive and very smart. I just want to be clear. But I'm not a liberal either.
That was totally necessary, Brian. Thanks for that.
Maybe if I was a liberal, I might say that, which is ridiculous. But anyway, Tommy, take me back to you're 18, 19, 20 years old. You're attending UNLV. Did you ever think you would have the career you have now? You're making all these TV appearances all the time. You're a household name among conservatives. And I mean, take me back to that time. If somebody told you as an 18 or a 19-year-old at UNLV that you would be where you're at now in your career, would you have believed it?
This was always the goal. And I will say that I got my start at UNLV. I hosted our political roundtable show for UNLV TV called The Scramble. And that was what really launched me into my first job at 21. And my first TV show at One America was my experience on The Scramble. So I think that if you want to work for something and you see a goal and you're determined and you're relentless in the pursuit of that goal, you'll get there. And UNLV wasn't a conventional place. That helps me a lot. Vegas is not a conventional place. That helps me a lot.
Yep.
And, unlike a lot of other schools, you kind of had to go at it on your own a little bit at UNLV. And you had to be independent and you had to be tough. And that's what prepared me for this industry, which we all know is a very tough industry, especially right now.
Well, I want to say congratulations on all your success. You certainly deserve it. And, man, we'd love to have you in studio sometime, and maybe we can get you fired up, talk about some abortion issues and gun control issues. That would definitely get you going a little bit.
Yeah, and if you really want to get me fired up, let's talk about immigration.
Oh, well, I'll tell you what. Next time you're in Vegas, I know you have a very busy schedule. We understand that. But, man, we'd love to have you in studio for a segment or two and have a good debate. We would love to do that if you'd be willing to do that down the road.
All right, you got it. I'll talk to you guys soon.
Thanks so much, Tommy. We appreciate your time.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Tommy.
Thank you, guys.
All right, there you go. Tomi Lahren, Fox Nation, Fox News. You see her on pretty much every network television show that talks politics. I mean, this woman has been everywhere. I will say this about her. I appreciate her honesty. You hear some people on TV and you think they're phony. You think they might be fake until maybe you meet them yourselves. I met her in an elevator. I didn't stalk her, ladies and gentlemen. But I met Tomi Lahren at the Democratic debate. She could not have been nicer. Really. She was so nice. And I'm just some idiot in an elevator. Who the hell's this creep? But she was very nice. I told her I did a radio show. I actually asked her a few questions about some of the issues. She was funny. She was honest. Actually, I will say this. I asked her about UNLV, and I said, what do you think about these crowds at UNLV basketball games? And her response to me was, I didn't go to games even when I was there. I thought that was really funny. But I have a newfound respect for her because at least she's able to call out things that the president says. She's able to call out things that Don Jr. says and Mike Pence says, and she's able to disagree with it, and I do appreciate
I'm glad
that.
you were able to slip in that compliment to let her know how attractive she is, which was, again, totally appropriate. But you told me after meeting her that she was actually more striking in person than she is in photos.
She is, listen, she's attractive on television, but she's even more, you meet some people in person, you're like, ooh, she looks better on television, or he looks better on television. I saw her in person, and I'm like, wow. I mean, she really is a beautiful woman. That's the type of woman that doesn't have to wear a bit of makeup, and she's really beautiful.
My favorite part of that segment was how she painted you as the classic Trump-hating liberal. Because
I don't think she was doing that.
Every single thing that she said that Trump-hating liberals do, you do every single day. And I really enjoyed that a lot.
Well, I mean, I'm not a liberal.
I guarantee you our listeners did as well.
Well, first of all, I'm going to challenge her. I will say this. When you make an appearance, as Tomi Lahren makes an appearance, I'm sure she'd agree with this, on Fox Fox News or Fox Nation on some of these shows, she's not going to be challenged on things. Now, she has made some appearances on The View and some other shows where people do challenge her, and she does a good job in defending herself. But obviously, I'm not the type of person that's just going to do a puffer interview. I'm going to be respectful, but I'm going to ask her the questions. And by the way, I think she agreed with me on some of the stuff.
No, she did. She did.
And, the Mike Pence Don Jr. stuff especially. But, some people are pandering to their base and they don't have the backbone to answer questions honestly. I think Tomi Lahren would do a great radio show. I think she'd be very good at that.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, but we appreciate Tomi taking some time to join us, and we hope we can get her in studio one of these days. Not just because she's beautiful, but I actually do think she's very intelligent, very well-spoken, and she does a good job. I don't agree with a lot of her positions politically, but there's a way to disagree with people without the name-calling. She was respectful to us. We're going to be respectful to her, and we hope that she joins us in studio one of these days. She's a lot more fun to look at than you, JD. All due respect, you're a very good-looking, strapping young man, but Tomi Lahren is at another level.
I appreciate your honesty there, Brian.
No problem.
Your candor.
All right, we appreciate Tomi Lahren taking some time to join us. Coming up next, the Clintons are speaking, and you're not going to believe what they're speaking about. We'll get to that coming up next. You're listening to the Vegas Take right here on the all-new 101.5 FM, 720 AM, KDON.